that too. Let me get the microphone turned on. There it is. Thank you. Can everyone take their seats, please? Will it pick it up? Okay. Does everybody have their voter card? Just a couple more. One more and we'll get going. First of all, welcome everyone. It's the first time we've been at this location. Beautiful, beautiful location that it is. I'll introduce myself first while we're waiting for the last couple people. My name's Rick Lawton. I've been the moderator here for the past several years. Too many, I can't tell you exactly how many. Tonight will be my last time. I'm not running again, but I want to tell you everybody that I really enjoyed the work we've done over the past 15 or so years, and I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. If you guys would like to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll get started. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty, justice for all. Everybody has their voter ID card. I'm going to be asking people to raise them at the proper time. Before we start the work of the evening, we're going to have a Denise Day present an award.
Good evening, everyone. This year's Distinguished Service Award goes to Paul Bamford. Paul Bamford exemplifies the word service. His contributions to not only the Oyster River community, but the entire Seacoast area itself have been amazing. Paul's love for Oyster River started back in his days as a student athlete here. A 1971 graduate of Oyster River High School, Paul was a standout soccer and basketball player. Since that time, Paul has given countless hours of his life giving back to sports as an Oyster River High School coach. He has coached basketball for many years here in the past and is currently the school's golf coach. Some of the most important lessons that Paul emphasizes with our student athletes is to give back and to strive to make a difference in someone else's life. His teams have always set the standard for others in terms of community service and fundraising for worthy causes. An example of this is the charity golf event that Paul puts on every year, in which all proceeds go to cancer research. His team is always actively participating in the event. In the spring of 2021, the athletic director approached Paul about looking at ways to fundraise for a press box for the high school turf field. Paul jumped right in to help and has been working on it ever since. He has created a committee and is working with coaches and other alumni to make it happen. In the fall of 2021, Paul organized an Oyster River High School soccer weekend that brought alumni from a wide range of graduation years back to campus for a celebration. All proceeds from the weekend were to go towards the Press Box Fund. The following are some thoughts people have about Paul. Former Oyster River High School boys varsity basketball coach Lauren Lucas. I was fortunate to have Paul Bamford volunteer to assist the boys basketball team. Paul immediately made an impact with the team and coaching staff on the floor and off. He got to know each player and member of the coaching staff and would check in with all of us every day. I can easily say that my life and all that are fortunate to have met him are better due to knowing Paul Bamford. From Jack Edwards, Boston Bruins play-by-play announcer and Oyster River High School alum. From his lighthouse vantage point, standing taller than most of the world, Paul Bamford has had a good view of the rising tide that raises all boats. I first met Bamf when I was an anxious 13-year-old. My parents had just gotten divorced, and I found solace in sports. The biggest sport was the Oyster River High School soccer team, which drew several hundred fans to each home game, even on rainy weekdays. I got a job as a ball boy on the sideline nearer to the school, and I would run myself ragged to stay with the play, enabling my heroes to inbound another ball as soon as the one in play went out. At the end of every victory, that team was literally perfect. I would rush onto the pitch, we called it a field back then, and hold my palms together. That was the precursor to the high five. We called it gimme some skin. Bamf would smile at me just like I was his teammate and bring his one massive hand down across my two. He, at 6'7", could have looked right over me and joined his real teammates as they gathered in the sweaty celebration of another win. But he made a point of including me and every kid who approached him. That made us all feel really special. He has not changed. He made his living as an insurance executive. Think about that, protecting people and planning for their futures. He has raised funds for many causes, coached in several sports at all kinds of levels, and has helped many more people than the public knows about. If you ask him to take credit for something, he'll deflect the conversation. He'll end up telling you of how incompetent he was in junior high shop class, and you will laugh so hard at his self-deprecation that tears will come to your eyes. He is a beacon on a stormy, rocky coast. We should all follow his illuminating path. From Suzanne Philippone, Assistant Superintendent at Oyster River Cooperative School District. Paul inspires me every time I speak with him. He brings positive energy and love to everything and everyone he meets. I can't thank Paul enough for all he has given and continues to give to our students and community. From Jen Goldberg, Oyster River High School parent. He did reach out to me when my older son passed away in 2017, having gone through his own terrible ordeal. I will just say that is the kind of person he is. You don't even have to know him, and he's there for you. It is my pleasure to present the award to Paul Bamford.
I'd like to have Aiden come over here. This is my nephew, and he goes to school here, and he's a soccer and baseball aficionado, okay? I want to dedicate this award to my brother, Steve, who just passed away last Thursday, and my brother Dave, his grandfather, who passed away last July. Both were grads here, 61, 64. He's going to graduate from here. Hopefully, he's going to be the big star. And I want to thank the committee. I want to thank all of you. I want to thank the town and the support that you show us in athletics. Don't ever think that the athletic programs are not part of education. They are. I'm going to try to contain myself. Brian, help me out here, buddy. Athletics is such a part of education. And everybody who plays a sport, they have to show will, and they have to show camaraderie, and they have to show teamwork, and so forth. They get into the work world, they have to do the same thing. And if we don't support that along with the regular academics, it's a lost cause. So I ask you, he's the future here, and I love him. And I know he's going to have a great future here. I love this school, always have. I'll continue to work for it. We've got a coin drive coming April 3rd to the 7th. And I'm working on it now. We've got a $20,000 goal to go toward the press box. I want to raise the money by January 1st, 2025. If any of you can help me, I would love it, okay? So thank you very much. I appreciate it. I also want to thank my wife, Mary, for allowing me to, putting up with me doing all this stuff for the school and other things. She's been a rock for me, and I appreciate her very much. So thank you all. Appreciate it very much. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Nice meeting you. Nice to meet you. Thank you very much. Thanks very much, Dave. Okay, I just wanted to give you a hug. Okay, love you.
Wow, that was great. Little personal privilege when names are up on the high school wall over there and you see the Bamford name, and I was really proud when my son Rick's name got up there. This is a great school district. It's my last time here, so I may say some things not for the moderator to say, but it's a great school district. My kids, my grandkids, fantastic place to bring kids up. It really is. So let's start with our work of the evening. We're going to follow Robert's Rules of Order, loosely. Everybody will get a chance to speak once. Before you get to speak again on the same subject, we're going to present the warrant articles. The warrant article will be moved. It'll be explained, moved, seconded, any discussion necessary, and we'll move on to the next thing. So before we start, I will read the MS 26 that was posted by Wendy DeFuscio. I certify that on January 27, 2023, I posted the MS 26, the default budget, and the written warrant attested by the school board of the Oyster River Cooperative School District in the town of Durham at the Oyster River Middle School and Oyster River High School, the place of the meeting, in the town of Lee at the Massway School, and in the town of Madbury at the Meharmet School, signed by Wendy DeFuscio. It's notarized. It's been posted and notarized. So on to the work of the evening. I'll read the beginning of the warrants. Oyster River Cooperative School District, State of New Hampshire, 2023 school warrant. To the inhabitants of the Oyster River Cooperative School District of Durham, Lee, and Madbury, qualified to vote upon district affairs, you are hereby notified to meet at the Oyster River Middle School in said district on the 7th day of February 2023 at 7 o'clock in the evening for session 1 of the annual school district meeting for discussions of Articles 3 and 4 for any amendments thereto. Warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law shall not be amended, and no warrant article shall be amended to eliminate the subject matter of the article at session 1. The official ballot voting for the school district officers, Articles 1 and 2, and on Articles 3 and 4 will occur at the town polling locations on Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. That is in the town of Durham at the Oyster River High School, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The town of Lee Public Safety Complex, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The town of Madbury Town Hall, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Article 1 will be to choose a new moderator for the coming year. Article 2, to choose 2 at-large school board members for the ensuing 3 years and 1 Durham school board member for 1 year, So we will first hear Article 3, and that will be presented by Michael Williams.
All right, Article 3. Shall the district raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by a special warrant article and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant, or as amended by a vote of the first session, for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $53,211,098. Should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $52,953,910, the default budget, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the district or by law, or the district may hold 1 special meeting in accordance with New Hampshire RSA, Chapter 40, Section 13, Paragraph 10 and 16, to take up the issue of the revised operating budget only. The school board recommends this appropriation. Majority vote required. Note, Fund 10 is $51,679,884. That's the regular operating budget. Fund 21, $890,214, expenditures from food service revenues. Fund 22, $600,000, expenditures from federal and special revenues. And Fund 23, $41,000, expenditures from pass-through funds. And Mr. Moderator, I move that we adopt Article 3.
Thank you. The warrant Article 3 has been moved. Is there a second? So we have the seconds. Would you like to explain it for us?
I would be glad to.
Thank you.
All right. Before we dive into the details of the budget, we already heard from Mr. Bamford a little bit about the district, a couple other highlights. Last year we had a 98.5% graduation rate. Students that come out of this district have a lot of choices in where they go and avail themselves of those options. Just this fall, we had state championships in volleyball and boys soccer and unified soccer. And we sent 3 teams from the middle school to the VEX Robotics World Championships. And we could go on for a long time on this. When we look at academic performance, on the left side, you see the percentage of Oyster River students that meet or exceed state standards across different grades and on compared to the state average. And on the right side, you see Oyster River's average SAT scores compared to state and federal averages. And that's particularly remarkable when you consider that well north of 80% of our high school seniors take the SAT, which is not unusual. That's far above the normal number of students in a typical high school. When we look at where we've been and where we're going, this is the enrollment trend for the last several years, including our tuition students. You can see that it's been fairly stable right around that 2,100 student mark. And our projections from the Long Range Planning Committee essentially follow a fairly flat trend for the next several years that we have visibility to. That works out to, when we include the students in the PEP program at the high school, 2,140 students across the schools. When we look back over the last year, this school year started with students and staff returning to normal school operations. We are in a different place than we've been in the past for this meeting. The new middle school building and grounds opened. Just a note there, the bonds for this building, which were approved in 2020, were sold at an interest rate of right around 2%. The last set of similar bonds that the state sold were at 4.7%, which was in October. And if that was the rate we were paying, the additional interest over the life of the bond would be an additional $20 million, or more than $800,000 a year. So that's fortunate timing that works out for all of our benefit. We completed new tennis courts at the high school. The third floor of the high school tower was air conditioned, so as we see these hot temperatures at the beginning and end of the school year, making it easier for teaching to continue. We added some new positions. We added the DEIJ coordinator, communications specialist, 2 custodians here at the middle school, and 2 tutors, which were grant-funded positions that were adopted into the regular budget when those grant funds expired. And we did not need to tap into our contingency or capital reserve funds last year. The process of putting together a budget is an exercise in balance. We start with, what do students need? What can we ask of the community? What is reasonable to ask the community to support? What does the community want the school district to do? We need to have excellent staff to undertake the activities of the school district. What do we need to do to retain and recruit those folks? We have legal obligations from the past actions of the school district or law. What are those? What do we have to do to maintain our physical plant and the things that make the schools operate? And what do our staff have the ability to take on? When we talk about the process of putting the budget together, it takes the whole year. It really is a cycle. The school board's finance committee starts even before, more than a year in advance of the budget going into effect, to look at what's going to drive the budget. The school board sets a goal to guide the administration in putting together the budget in September. The administration spends September and October putting together a proposed budget based on the school board's budget goal. And then that essentially gets handed off to the school board for deliberations through the tail end of October through November and the first part of December. Some of the major drivers that are come in towards the end of that are the state funding and health insurance rates that we find out typically right around the middle of November. There was a public hearing in January, and then we're here at the deliberative session, and then we've got the election next month. The budget goes into effect on July 1st, by which point the school board will have already started working on the 24-25 budget. So let's dig into some of the numbers. The big story here in terms of balance in this year's budget is decreases that are coming into the towns in state funding. For this next school year, Oyster River is only expected to receive $2,746 per student in what the state calls adequate education aid grants. And you can see that is a significant reduction from what the towns are receiving this year, and it doesn't hit each town equally. Durham has seen a drop of over $600,000, about a $100,000 drop for Lee, and a $127,000 drop for Madbury. Every one of these dollars that the state is not providing has to be offset either through a budget cut or an increase in our local property taxes. So the proposed budget really prioritizes protecting direct instructional and student supports, and then limiting budget growth to 1.5% in general fund spending. The only 2 positions that are being added to the budget are positions that were funded by COVID-related recovery grants to support student social, emotional, and academic learning. Those are both at the middle school here, a middle school counselor position and a middle school tutor. If we don't adopt these into the regular budget, these positions will have to be eliminated. In terms of other staff costs, health insurance for the district is going up 3%, which is a relatively small amount. You can see that collective bargaining has a major impact on the budget. Other salaries that are not part of our unions, and then other retirement tax and benefits go up a little bit as well. The bond payments, which we've already committed to, are about another $100,000 impact to the budget. The increase in the middle school bonds as we step up to kind of a steady state one more year past this are offset in part by retiring the high school bond from 20 years ago, which is being paid off this year. So when we look at the capital projects in the budget for next year, the major item in the budget is to continue the process of air conditioning the high school tower, the warmest part of the high school building. That's a significant investment. Other investments in the art room renovation at the high school, storage shed replacement at Mast Way that's in need of replacement, and then beginning some work on the high school roof and refinishing the high school gym floor round out the capital budget. In addition, not technically inside the capital part of the budget, but related are district upgrades, safety upgrades district-wide, running about $40,000. In terms of how we reduce some other costs. The school board offered a retirement incentive this year, and a number of both union and non-union staff accepted that retirement incentive. We intend to replace those positions, but we expect to do so at a lower cost, and resulting in about a $325,000 savings. There are some unfilled positions which are not included in next year's budget, and then there were other projects and proposals that are being deferred out to future years. So, how does this roll up? The proposed budget, you can see in the blue column, $51,679,884. That's a 1.5% increase in the general fund. The school nutrition fund is going up by about 5%, and that is completely offset by revenue. The school nutrition program has been extraordinarily successful here under Doris Demers' leadership, and fantastic school nutrition staff, and school nutrition participation has grown continuously throughout Doris's tenure here. Other grant funds staying the same. So that rolls up to a total of 1.54%. We look at how that breaks down spending-wise. Salaries and benefits make up almost 80% of the budget. Bond payments, a little over $2 million. Everything else, you can see the breakdown. Offsetting this, revenues that are included in the proposed budget for next year, we expect to carry over about $500,000 in unused funds out of this year's budget. Now that we're more than halfway through the budget year, we expect about $500,000 to be left over. Forecasting tuition, which is mostly Barrington students at the high school, a little over $3.4 million, and then various other sources of revenue that show up in smaller amounts. So the question is always, what does this mean in terms of how it boils down to property taxes? Answer that question, but not just yet. So we take that number, the 53 million, we subtract the revenue, 6.5 million, and what's left there, 46,700,000, that gets divided between the three towns. The formula for dividing that cost between the three towns is based half on property tax base and half on enrollment. So for next year, and then those numbers fluctuate slightly every year. The referee on property tax base is the State Department of Revenue Administration, and enrollment is numbers that are reported to the State Department of Education. And you can see that those numbers lag a little bit because it takes time to compute those. But for the next year, Durham is about 54%, Lee about 31%, and Madbury 15%. So that's how those numbers get divided out between the three towns. The state grant is then subtracted from that, and the rest of that, which is raised locally through property taxes, is what you see on that third row there. Some of that shows up in your property taxes as state school tax. Some of that shows up as local school tax, but all of that is dollars that stay within the district. In terms of rates, these are the projections for next year, that it would be a total of $19.36 in Durham, $15.71 in Lee, and $19.54 in Madbury. These estimates, as we say every year, are a little bit on the conservative side typically because they do not assume any increase in the tax base due to new construction in any of the towns, since we don't have that information available. I believe that Durham is also going through a reassessment this year, so that number will change dramatically based on how the reassessment comes out. But if valuations didn't change, this is about where we would be. Two more pieces of information for you before I wrap up my part. Reserve fund balances, so these are funds that the district holds for different purposes. The contingency fund is about $1.1 million, makes up almost half of that. Other funds that you can see there, the special education fund and the benefit stabilization fund were both created to offset any sudden increases in either employee benefits or special education costs without dramatically impacting the rest of the budget. So those are there for future use, and the total is just shy of $2.5 million. Mentioned the default budget earlier. The default budget is what we get if we say no on the budget in the March election. That is about $257,000 less than the proposed budget. And with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, You've heard the explanation of warrant Article 3. Is there any discussion? Mr. Hall, we all know you, but introduce yourself and tell us where you live.
William Hall, Durham. Thank you for a most excellent presentation, and I ask that we move the question.
Thank you. The motion to move the question on the floor. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, the motion to move the question has been carried. It has been, warrant Article 3 has been moved and seconded, explained. All those in favor of warrant Article 3 as explained signify by raising your card. Those opposed? Warrant Article 3 as written has been passed to the warrant, to the ballot. Warrant Article 4, Matthew Bean.
Good evening. Article 4, shall the district vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $125,000 to be added to the Facilities Development, Maintenance, and Replacement Trust, which was established in March of 2017. This sum to come from the June 30 fund balance available for transfer on July 1st. The school board recommends this appropriation, majority vote required, no amounts to be raised from taxation. And Mr. Moderator, I move that we accept the warrant.
Warrant Article 4 has been moved. Is there a second? You have a second, Sue? Yes. Any explanation?
Yeah, just as a very quick explanation, this would be the third of 7 installments put into a fund to purchase the solar array on the top of the building and the parking lot of this building, which the district would then own, and all the benefits that come from owning those panels.
Warrant Article 4 has been explained. Is there any discussion on Warrant Article 4? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Dean Rubine from Lee. First, let me thank you for your service, Rick.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All these years. And Sue, who else we got? UC. And I think Doris is here too. Thank you all. My question is really about the other warrant article, but I'm going to sneak it in here because we got closed out on that one. And if you rule me out of order, well, I'll live with that. Basically, the issue this year was this decrease in state funding. So I'm referring to slide 10 in the presentation, which showed $850,000 less from the state in adequacy aid. But if we look at the MS-26 forms for the 2 years, the total grant money on last year's is $9,260,000 compared to $9,338,000 checks. So that's actually an increase in grant funding, which doesn't seem to jive with the story we're hearing.
Sure. We'll take we'll take a question about the previous article, if it's okay.
Okay. Well, that was my question. Can you explain the discrepancy between the MS-26 and this slide 10?
So the MS-26 includes the total amount that the state considers adequate education funding. And that is made up of both the part that is paid from the state to the district and that state education tax that's part of our property taxes. So the state says, we'll give you some money, you have to collect some money locally, and we consider those two put together to be your adequate education aid. So most of our adequate education
on taxation on the bottom of MS-26, that's a fib?
The part on the MS-26, the way the MS-26 is set up, the local is only the local education tax.
It's only local education tax, but you're saying that in this $9,338,000, the state's only giving us $5,320,000.
He's right? Okay. I don't have this.
This is the sum of the state money. And so when it says on the bottom of the MS-26 that we have to pay what's left after we remove this $9 million, it's really after we remove the $5 million? That doesn't make any sense to me, but okay.
So this portion is only the part that comes from the state into the district. This does not include the part that the state tells us we have to raise locally as part of our own property taxes. That's these numbers here.
Okay, so that number at the bottom of the
The-
MS-26 that says this is going to be raised from taxation is not the full amount, because that subtracts 9 million, not 5 million.
When we look at the property tax slide, the part that's at the bottom of the MS-26 makes up the projected local education property tax. The state includes what's shown here as the state education, the state education tax is the state includes in what they call adequate education aid.
That's the money they collect. I'm talking about the money that we have to pay in the local property. All right, well.
I can draw you a Venn diagram.
Okay, well,
Another time.
We'll talk about that offline. I appreciate you guys taking my question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So back to warrant Article 4. Yes, sir.
Tom Newkirk, Durham. Rick, thank you so much for your service.
You're more than welcome.
And I obviously support warrant Article 4, but I wanted to second what Dean said and to recognize what Sue Caswell has done for the district. I was calculating like 13, 14 budgets you've helped us develop. And if you do the math, that's something like, $600, $700 million that you've helped us devise budgets for and supervise the spending. When I was on the board, we'd get the annual audits, and they were impeccable, year after year after year. And how you would work with Jim Rizicki and others to bring in grants to the district. I'm sure I reflect the feeling of the board, just what a gift you were to the district, what a gift you were to the board, what a gift you were to the community. So I just thought your work should be recognized since this is your last deliberative session. So thank you, Sue Caswell.
Warrant Article 4 has been moved, second, explained. All those in favor of warrant Article 4 as presented, please present your cards. Those opposed? Thank you. That is the end of the warrant article work for this evening. I usually end it by reading the polling places again. So we'll do that before we move to close. I will entertain a motion to close in a second. So we'll see everybody Tuesday, March 14th, Town of Durham, Oyster River High School, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Town of Lee Public Safety Complex, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Town of Madbury Town Hall, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Is there a motion to close? Oh, Mr. Parsons, we can't not do it.
Just because you're leaving. As much as I enjoy spending some time in this spectacular new facility, and I recognize that this is the quickest district meeting that I've been to in the last 40 years, I'd like to move we adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry. John Parsons, Durham.
There's a second. All those in favor, signify. Who was the second again? I'm sorry. Okay, we'll see everybody at the polls. Thank you.